you, Don. I think we have a theme going on here today. We have beautiful red roses, we had a beautiful rose song, and we have a beautiful rose speaker today. So several months ago, I was talking to Linda George, and she mentioned that there was this wonderful minister who was teaching one of the OLLI classes. And I said, I don't know why I perked up at that, but, you know, Spirit kind of goes, ahem, a lot. And most of the time I listen. So I said, oh, tell me who it is and how to contact her. So I contacted Reverend Rosie, and we met for coffee, and we hit it off right away, and I invited her to come and speak. And even though usually the goal for most ministers on a Sunday is if you don't have to speak on a Sunday, you take off on a Sunday. However, I wanted to be here to listen and support and share in what I know she's going to present today. She did give me a kind of a bio because I barely know her in form, that is. So
we've known each other for years.
We have, right. So from that, Reverend Potestio is a certified interfaith spiritual director, Chaplaincy Institute in Berkeley. She comes to the interfaith tradition from a rich and diverse background that includes progressive Christianity, ooh, I like that, Buddhism and Taoism, as well as a longtime student of metaphysics. As a spiritual director, she accompanies those seeking guidance on their spiritual journeys. Rosie is also a commissioned minister for spiritual direction with the United Church of Christ in Chico, where she actively serves. Rosie maintains a personal practice with an office in Durham, as well as leading workshops and classes for churches and organizations such as the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, which is how she came to find us. And I think, as Reverend Rosie said, we've probably known each other for a lifetime, so now I'm eager to hear what she's going to share in this lifetime. Please help me to welcome Reverend Rosie Potestio.
Thank you, and thank you for welcoming me here today to the Chico New Thought Center for Spiritual Living. It is really great. I've got lights right in my eyeballs, and so it's hard for me to really connect with the room here. So maybe we could tone it down just a little bit, the lights in my eyes. I mean, I like the light. I like the light. Trust me. The twin graces of gratitude and forgiveness. Grace. Let's start with grace. You know, grace is one of those words these days that is either overused or underused depending upon where you find yourself. And it has many, many definitions. And I will read a definition, I'll go, oh, this is a good one, this works. And I'll read another one, I'll go, this doesn't work. You know, I don't know where they came up with this. But the definition for grace that I like the best is that divine grace is something that moves us along our spiritual path. It propels us, so to speak. So within my work as a spiritual director, which is a spiritual companion, basically, I find that we come back again and again and again to the disciplines of gratitude and forgiveness. We think we're working on gratitude, and then all of a sudden forgiveness worms its way in there, and we realize we're working on both. Or we're working on forgiveness, and pretty soon we recognize that gratitude has come in through the back door. Gratitude and forgiveness, they're so entwined. The twin graces, they work together. They work in harmony. So that being said, let me tell you that I am a Christian by tradition, by choice, but I have a real love for every single spiritual path that exists on this planet at this time. I have a particular love for Taoism and Buddhism. So let me start with gratitude, and there is a story out of the ancient Buddhist traditions that I think really exemplifies gratitude so well. And remember, this is set back, ancient China. So there is a man, and he goes to the local monk, and he says to him, he says, "Oh, master, I need your help. I need your help. He says, I live in a one-room house with my wife, my children, and my in-laws, and it's dirty, it smells, it's chaos. I just do not know how to deal with this anymore. I need your help. Please, please, I need your help. And the monk looks at him and he says, do you promise to do what I say? I promise, he says, I promise anything. I will do anything you say. So the monk says to him, how many animals do you have? I expected a few chuckles at that one, because we see where this is going. And the man says, well, I've got 6 chickens and a goat. I love it. The monk says, go home and bring the animals into the house and come back in a week. Well, the man is appalled. He's aghast, but a promise is a promise. Heavy-hearted, with stooping shoulders, he heads home, brings the animals into the house. A week later, he comes back to the monk, and he is a pitiable figure. He's crying. He says, oh, master, please, you've got to help me. You've got to help me. Do something with this. Then the monk says, okay, go home and take the animals out of the house. So with a light heart and a light step, the man runs all the way home, takes the animals out of the house, comes back the next day. He says, oh, master, the house is just wonderful. Oh, it's so quiet. It's so clean. It's heaven. Gratitude is a change in perspective. It's only a change in perspective. How we view things, where we put our attention. So, recognizing, and I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, recognizing that where we put our attention expands. So in the practice of gratitude, I suggest a practice of expansion. We could say, well, let me back up just a little bit. Go back to the late 80s, early 90s, because this is really interesting, having to do with gratitude. There was a new psychology that was named at that point called positive psychology. And the practitioners within this new field decided that they wanted empirical evidence that gratitude, the practices of gratitude, increased our zest for life, increased our attitudes of living in the positive. So what they did was they went to many universities and they would get 3 groups of students, and each would journal. One group journaled just daily happenings. One group journaled daily problems, and one group journaled daily gratitudes. And when they compiled all of this empirical evidence at the end of their trials, they said, okay, now we have proven that gratitude brings more joy into our life. Well, I wish they'd have asked me. I could have told them. But that's okay. Now we have empirical proof, right? So with this empirical proof, we strive to put our attention to the gratitude. And this is how I suggest that we do it. We can start with, oh man, I am so grateful for the rain. Aren't you grateful for the rain? Or we can expand it with every sense that we have. And I invite you to go on a little visualization with me. And I imagine that I am standing in my living room at my back slider door, and I see the rain on my back deck. I step out into the rain and I lift my face and feel it on my head, on my face, on my skin. I can open my mouth and feel the rain on my tongue. I hear it hitting the bricks of my deck. I hear it softly hitting the ground. I can open my eyes and I see the leaves of the plants opening to this life-giving rain. The pansies lifting their faces, almost smiling with the rain. I can look and see my lemon tree that's just covered with rain, and the lemons are fragrant and smell beautiful. They're ready to be picked, and they're covered with rain, and the leaves are covered with rain. And I feel my cat entwining around my legs and purring, almost saying, "Oh, are you out here worshiping the rain? May I join you?" I feel her purr coming deep within, and I feel the blessings of the life-giving, nourishing rain go into every cell of my being. I am so thankful for the rain. Expansion. Where we put our focus is going to expand. Now let me give you a real life expression of expansion. This happened to me just this last week. So on Monday, I send my son a text, and he lives in Reno with his new wife, and I say, "Well, what are your plans for Thanksgiving, and are you going to be able to spend Wednesday night or Thursday night here?" And he texts back and he goes, "Oh, Mom, I have to work Wednesday night, so we won't be there until dinner on Thursday, and then Thursday night we're going to spend with friends, and Friday we're going to go to San Francisco to visit with the wife's family." And wisely, I just didn't say anything more. And then he texts me and he goes, "Well, we'll have plenty of time to talk at dinner." Typical male reaction, right? So I'm thinking, after I turn off my phone, I'm thinking, what about me? What about me? I want time to visit with my son, with his new wife. This doesn't work for me. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Where's my focus? Where is my focus? My focus needs to be on the positive. Okay, I can do this. I teach this all the time. I can do this. You feel this little knock on the shoulder? Excuse me? Practice what you preach? I can do this. Okay, I'm really thankful that he's doing well in his job. I'm thankful that he's happy. I'm thankful that his wife is doing well. I'm thankful that they're doing well together. I'm thankful that they will be here for Thanksgiving. I'm really thankful that they have friends that enjoy their life's journey together. I'm really thankful that he gets along with his in-laws. Life can be miserable if one doesn't get along with their in-laws. So I'm very thankful for all of these things. Now, I would like to tell you that this whole process took me about 24 seconds. I would be lying if I said that. In reality, it was more like about 24 hours of reinforcing this, I am grateful. These are the things I'm grateful for. These are the things I'm grateful for. These are the things I'm grateful for. Until there's this shift in perception where I don't even remember this, what about me? All I remember is I'm so grateful for what is. I'm so grateful. Where we put our attention expands. One other thing, I would just like to make a note about gratitude journaling. I always recommend journaling for anyone on the spiritual path. And journaling has kind of taken on Some people find it very hard because they think they need to write the great American novel. And that is not true. Gratitude journaling, or any kind of journaling, can be as simple and effective as you want it to be. You take a little tiny notebook like this, and a gratitude journaling can be, I'm thankful for the rain. So my recommendation is that we find 3 things daily to journal to be thankful for. And if you can't find 3 things, find 1 thing and write it down 3 times. I don't care what you find to be grateful for. It can be indoor plumbing and hot running water, but find something, anything, because where we put our attention expands. And when we're looking for things to write in our gratitude journal, that's where our attention is. So let's move to this twin grace of forgiveness. Forgiveness, the word forgiveness in the English language, it makes it very difficult because it takes on the connotation of, oh, I forgive you, what you did is okay. To me, forgiveness is being able to lay it down and not carry it anymore. So, another one of my favorite Buddhist stories. And this is about 2 monks. They are on a spiritual journey. And within any spiritual journey, you have certain parameters that you are expected to attain to. Of the many that they are trying to do while they are journeying, one is to keep the silence. The second is do not touch anyone of the opposite sex. So they're walking quietly along, and they come to a swollen river. At the edge of the river, there is a very young woman, and she's trying to get across the river, but she can't. The river is too swift. And so the first monk, he sees what's happening. He simply goes up to her, puts her on his back, takes her across the river, puts her down, and keeps going. Well, the second monk, he follows him across the river, and they go on their journey. And the second monk is bothered. He's thinking about what happened. Finally, he can hold his tongue no longer. He says, "Brother, I cannot believe that you did that. I cannot believe that you touched that woman. Not only did you touch her, you put her on your back and carried her." And the first monk says, "Brother, are you still carrying her? I put her down by the river." Forgiveness is being able and willing to put it down. I almost wish we had an acronym that I could use instead of the word forgiveness. And if I were going to make one up, this is how it would go. Let me give you the backstory on it. So we all have sack of rocks that we carry. That's the things we haven't forgiven. Some people's sacks are heavier. Some are bigger. Some are prettier. But everyone has a sack. And we carry it in different ways. We carry it different places. Just for visualization's sake, I'm going to say I have a sack here on my shoulder. So what I want to say to this person carrying that sack is, put the sack down. Let go. Step back from the sack. So maybe my acronym would be for put the sack down. Be willing to step away from it. trust me, if you want to come back later and pick it up, that's entirely up to you. Personally, I'd heave some stuff out of there first. So forgiveness, being willing to let it go, not wanting to carry it any longer. I love the work of Virginia Satir. Some of you are probably familiar with her. And she had a wonderful component of her work called Make a New Meaning. Now, this Make a New Meaning has several levels of working it through. The simplest being you're driving down the freeway to church on a Sunday morning, and it's beautiful, and you've got the lovely music playing on the radio. And somebody comes and cuts you off, dangerously cuts you off, and then zips on down the freeway. And your first impulse is, "Oh, you stupid head," or some such words like that, right? So make a new meaning would be to ascribe meaning to this. Of course, you're never going to know exactly what the meaning is behind this person's rush. But we're going to make it up. We're going to say, okay, this is a world-renowned brain surgeon, and he's rushing to Enloe Hospital to do brain surgery on some notable person. Whatever works. Those are easy. We let it go. It's more difficult if we feel it in our heart. So let me tell you a story about a woman that I will call B. B is about my age, and she's married, has several children. 2 of her children have been in and out of trouble. One is pretty much getting life together. The other is still very much struggling. B quit high school as a sophomore, and attributes the difficulty in her life to her mother letting her quit school so early. And she was carrying a real weight as far as blame for her mother. Now, her mother had already passed. But there was a real blame that she carried. My life would have been so much better if my mother had not let me quit school and had insisted that I stay in school, get some additional education. My life would have been better. It's my mother's fault. So within this context of make a new meaning, we started looking at the knowns and the unknowns about her mother. Some of the knowns were her mother only had an 8th grade education because her father had died when she was very young and she was needed to help work with the family. She had a very difficult life. Her first husband beat her, and she had to escape him before she married B's father. She did not have the education to support, she really couldn't read very well. So it was almost impossible for her to go to the library and get a self-help book. You know, she didn't know where to turn to. So this was the known. And then we started looking at some of the unknowns, but things that we could probably say, you know what, it looks like maybe something like this happened. And in looking at her mother's life and her mother's actions and reactions, B came to the conclusion that her mother had probably been seriously sexually molested as a child, because there were a multitude of men that came in and out of the household. Looking at her mother's as an adult, as her actions and reactions with men and with women, it was very damaged, it was very hurt. So all of a sudden, B starts getting an understanding and a compassion for her mother that she never had before. She was making a new meaning. She was building into her compassionate heart a meaning of where this came from. All of a sudden, rather than blame focused at her mother, she has this sense of compassion for what her mother went through as a young child, as an adult. Recognizing this very difficult road that her mother traveled. It took, I'll be honest, it took years. It took years for her to really implement that in her heart. But now, when she thinks of her mother, she thinks with compassion and love. And those are the only things she feels for her mother now. Make a new meaning. We may never know that the meaning that we make up is real or unreal. It doesn't make any difference. It's to help us let it go. You want to pick it up later? It's up to you. But oh man, I like getting rid of it. There's such a joy and a freedom of not carrying that stuff along with us on our back, in our minds, in our hearts, to let it go. The Ollie class that I did last month was on gratitude. It was a 4-part workshop on gratitude. And I've got a 4-part workshop scheduled in February through Ollie on forgiveness. And what we're going to do in this is to gently, week by week, you are given the invitation to work individually and also through group, to work through these levels of forgiveness. Everything on our spiritual path is by invitation. We can say no. Or, better yet, we can say, oh, really? Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. Or we can say, yes. And it takes courage to say yes to Spirit. It takes courage, because we never know where Spirit's going to take us. That's scary stuff. We never know where Spirit's going to take us. Okay, Lord, lead on. Gratitude and forgiveness. Within gratitude and forgiveness, if we take just a step back, we realize that each one works within its own polarity. Each one has an in-breath and an out-breath. What I feel, what I experience, and what I express. Forgiveness for self, forgiveness for others. This duality, this polarity. But wait, there's more. This is not commercial. There's more. If we take a couple of steps back from that duality, that polarity, we see something else. We see that it's not a duality, it is a trinity, because God can never be taken out of the equation. No matter where we are working, God is present. If we are working in gratitude, if we are working in forgiveness, God is always present in the equation. Somewhere, somehow, God is always present. Amen. So, we're going to take some time, a few minutes, and you are invited. There's Duchess is going to pass out some paper and some pencils, And you are invited to write down on a piece of paper a gratitude or a forgiveness that you would like to put in the blessing bowl. You can have more than one, you can have as many as you like, but please only do one on each piece of paper. Then you are invited to, I'm going to move this to the center, you are invited to come up to the blessing bowl and set them in the bowl. Anyone who does not want to come to the center, I can bring the bowl to them at that point. Then we will have a blessing. We will bless these gratitudes and forgivenesses that we are giving up to the divine. Then what's going to happen with those is they will be ceremonially burned. We don't have a blessing bowl here, so we can't do that here. But I have a lovely fire pit at home, actually kind of adjacent to my pansies. And I will take them home. They will never, ever be read. They will be put in a paper sack and blessed and protected as sacred. This is sacred between you and the divine. And when the sun peeks through enough and I can go outside to my fire pit, I will ceremonially burn them and bless them and send them on their way. So, your invitation. Is there anything else that would like to come to the blessing bowl? Would you join me in blessing these? Close your eyes with me, please. Loving and creative God, we bring these gratitudes and these forgivenesses to you to be blessed and to be blessings to us and to others, to the whole world. We give them into your care because you know what to do with them. Loving and compassionate God, bless them. Hold them tightly and then let them go as we let them go into your tender, loving care. And so it is. Amen.